Hi, I'm Yvonne Bolsa with Speaking J. Next to me is my Councilman, Stephen Fulop, and we're here in this caucus room talking about pay-to-play and Stephen's ordinance that he's trying to push. So, Steve, nice to see you. Could you talk about your ordinance right now?
So, thanks for having me. A couple different aspects to this. There's going to be two ordinances that are going to be going forward that we're going to be pursuing on a referendum. Just to go back a little bit, this process started about 6 months ago via a ordinance that was put in front of the City Council. It was voted down on a first reading ordinance. In the 2.5 years that I've been on the council, I would say it was probably the first instance when a first reading ordinance was voted down, basically meaning that it was the type of thing that the city didn't even want to have a discussion on at a second reading ordinance, despite the fact that that was probably the largest turnout for a first reading ordinance, certainly that I've seen and probably that I've been a part of in the last 5, 6, 7 years. So it certainly sends the message as far as where the sentiment is from a political standpoint amongst the current administration and current council members. So what we've done is we've taken, we've made the commitment that we're going to put on the ballot in November of 2008 as a referendum two ballot initiatives. The first one is focused on a pay-to-play ordinance, which is going to restrict campaign contributions from people who are doing business during that same time frame with the city, and I could discuss that in more details. And the second one is going to limit the multiple jobs and salaries and pensions from elected officials in the city. Now, that's a little bit of a tricky and slippery slope for the reason that the state statute currently allows you to have multiple jobs, and currently the current state legislator grandfathered in a lot of the existing violators. However, we're approaching it in the way saying that we can't restrict people from serving because the state allows that, and that's a larger issue than us. But the municipal council ordinances set the salaries and pensions structure for these elected officials. So while we're not restricting them from serving, we're taking away their incentives for serving in a lot of instances. And the assumption is that if you take away somebody's incentives to do the wrong thing, they'll stop doing it. And if you provide them incentives to do the right thing, hopefully they'll follow through and do the right thing. So that's kind of the big picture.
Okay, and the law is it talks about $300 as a cap for contributions. Do we have the same type of law that you're proposing?
That's going to be the same, and it's going to be during a time frame when you're in negotiation with the city. So as it relates to contracts, it's a year around the contract period, or during negotiation, or while your contract is underway. And as it relates to development, a year once again with the redevelopment plans. The goal is that pay-to-play is obviously a problem. It's a cancer as it relates to New Jersey politics, and it only feeds all the labels that we have as a state and certainly as a city overall, and it inflates the cost of government for the reason that you're not always giving it to the best and cheapest provider, and it consolidates power amongst the select few that are in those positions to give out those contracts and those redevelopment rights. So what you're doing is you're creating barriers to entry for new individuals getting involved, which ultimately you'd like to think is new ideas, and at the same time you are inflating the cost of government. So when you have tax increases and more tax increases, you could point to a lot of this stuff as far as inefficiencies in government. And this is just one example of it, and you close it, and then you'd hope that we could progress forward from there. New Jersey, in many ways, from a political standpoint, is the laughingstock of the country, us and maybe Louisiana, right, as it relates to political corruption. I think that you'd have to argue that Hudson County has historically had one of the worst labels in the entire state. So Jersey City, representing 50% of the state, we're actually going out, we're getting a petition for referendum done in 50% of the county that is perceived as literally the belly of the beast when it relates to political history that's probably not been on the up and up. So we're going to get this thing done and changed, and it's actually going to be something significant accomplishment for everybody involved, and I think everybody's fired up about it, and we're going to get it done.
What is the mayor's reaction to you as you start this? What do you think his personal reaction to you is going to be?
Initially he had his comments as it related to as it related to wealthy people only running, which is a ridiculous perspective to have. I think that because, as I touched on earlier, it just doesn't make any sense. It's only validating everything that pay-to-play is about. I think that, you know, initially he's going to continue where he's at right now, that opposed to him. I think when he realizes where the sentiment is, you know, who knows, he might change that tune a little bit, as a lot of politicians do. But at the end of the day, we're going forward with it, with or without him. We could care less. And, you know, they could either get on board or get run over. It's one or the other.
Well, this is Yvonne Balsa for Speaking Jay. I'll have a link to your site when it's up so people can hit my website and they can get all the information they need, and maybe there'll be a volunteer.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Great day.
All right.